hope it doesn't trip the breaker, entered the debate to make a definitive statement that, contrary to what was being said to the country, that the government was in fact embarking on tax increases, that coming from me as Prime Minister, I go on record saying that that is not so, because I want the population to know that that is not so. I hope it doesn't trip the breaker. It was being said that VAT was to be increased. Ladies and gentlemen, for the second time, I want to make it very clear, notwithstanding anything you've heard from the opposition, especially the opposition leader, there was no discussion in the cabinet about adjustment either upwards or downwards on VAT. That did not happen. I hope it doesn't trip the breaker. What happened is that the opposition leader got access to some working documents of the cabinet. Those working documents started with a cabinet note, and it contains an appendix. An appendix is something you add on to a document for clarification, right? I hope it doesn't trip the breaker. Because we are attached to the hydrocarbon sector by our economic umbilical cord, every one of you would know and would have heard on many occasions it being said, if the price of oil goes up, we then are in line to earn X dollars. If the price of oil goes down by $1, the Ministry of Finance will lose a certain amount of dollars. I hope it doesn't trip the breaker, especially when oil price is moving downwards relatively quickly. The Ministry of Finance and people in the know, economists around from the university, from the private sector, will talk about the potential reduction if the price goes down by $1, if it goes down by $10, so on. It is precisely that kind of information that, I hope it doesn't trip the breaker, provide on VAT. So for the opposition leader to have seen a document that shows those kinds of oscillations that refer to up and decrease, and select out a statement, I hope it doesn't trip the breaker, saying that the government has taken a decision to increase VAT, is quite disturbing. I hope it doesn't trip the breaker. That document, that appendix, has proof and is now calling me a liar and calling the cabinet a liar, calling the Ministry of Finance a liar, and the last person who should be trying to provide proof to this nation that somebody in my government is lying to the country is the opposition leader. I don't want to go into any details about her conduct and her record. I hope it doesn't trip the breaker.
Unlike the UNC, we can't lie to the parliament, you know. That gentleman there tell us if we ever lie to the parliament, it is a fireable offense. Well, in the UNC, you have to lie to be a UNC MP. You have to be a damn liar.
A few moments later.
Kamla Prasad, Bicesters, members of family, all receive rentals from the government. I can categorically state and confirm that no family members of the member for Siparia benefited from any government rentals. This matter, Madam Speaker, is grounded on the fact that the member for San Fernando West deliberately misled this honorable House and by extension the viewing citizens of the country, as he knew or ought to have known the statement he made was a deliberate untruth. It was false and it was incorrect. Request for clarifications.
He apologizes to Kamla Prasad, Bicester.
Upon conclusion of my contribution, it has come to my attention that the member for Oropouche East has since refuted my statements, which reflected upon the member for Siparia. In those circumstances, I withdraw my statements and hereby apologize to the member for Siparia.
can't lie to the parliament, you know.
The government is not closing down Petrotrin. And in case you were just opening your fridge and you didn't hear that when you closed the door, let me repeat it. The government of Trinidad and Tobago is not closing down Petrotrin. These are the facts, FAX.
From TV6. 2 questions. What's the PNM's policy going forward on the fuel subsidy?
The fuel subsidy is not targeted for removal, but for review as we go forward, because as the oil price drops, the quantum of the subsidy will also fall. But we, in the context of the mass transit considerations, could see a relationship between both, where if we do invest in a mass transit, the commensurate response over time is to adjust the fuel subsidy, because if the population has adequate mass transportation available, then one could embark upon some meaningful reduction in the fuel subsidy in a step-by-step arrangement. But in the immediate term, it's not on the cards.
The price of fuel by 15%. I then realized that was not enough. I came back again in April and I raised it again by 15%. And I came back again just a few weeks ago and raised it by another 15%. They haven't rioted yet. So I might raise it by another 15% in April of next year.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
Dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
What about the situation with the VAT? Because it was part of the manifesto, from 15% to 12.5%. But was it explained at the time that the list of the number of zero-rated items would be reduced, so people are actually complaining now that rather than a reduction, prices have gone up?
We said that we would lower the tax by 2.5%. That has been done. Did in fact reduce the tax by 2.5%. So VAT in Trinidad and Tobago is 12.5%. As a tax collection mechanism, we decided to put a tax on items of foodstuff which were not taxed before.
Were you therefore dishonest to the public prior to the election?
That decision.
Therefore dishonest to the public prior to the election.
That decision.
Prior to the election.
That decision.
Prior to the election.
That decision.
live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement 2015.
TV6. 2 questions at this point. What's the PNM's policy going forward on the fuel subsidy?
Fuel subsidy is not targeted for removal.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement 2015 Manifesto launch.
The dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. I heard a UNC minister, I think it was the famous Prakash Ramadar, telling people that the PNM will bring back the dreaded property tax. Let me make it abundantly clear. The property tax has already been dealt with. The property tax has already been dealt with. Anybody in the government now to be telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Unlike the UNC, we can't lie to the parliament, That gentleman there tell us if we ever lie to the parliament, it is a fireable offense. Well, in the UNC, you have to lie to be a UNC MP.